How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be finding out why sayings about the Dutch are so weird. Okay. Now, I haven't really heard a lot of sayings about the Dutch. I've heard like, if it ain't Dutch, it ain't much. What else? I don't know off the top of my head, but I haven't heard a lot, right? That's the whole gist of it. Anyways, we're going to check this out right here. Why sayings about the Dutch are so weird, and the original channel will be there will be a link to the original video in the description section down below. The original channel is called The Present Past. So, yeah, find out.
Why does English dislike the Dutch? All sayings about the Dutch seem to be negative or weird.
What? I have a date soon. If you ask me.
Oh, Dutch courage. Okay, I think I have heard that. So gaining confidence from alcohol.
Just at the start of the crypto revolution. Right. You wanna go Dutch? I know I ghosted her, but then she slept with my...
Oh yeah, go Dutch. Okay, yeah, I guess I have heard that. And then I've heard of Dutch oven. Like when you fart and then you hold the blanket over your girlfriend's head so she can smell it, right? Like you've probably heard that. Sorry. Inappropriate, but that's me.
My brother? Well, at least it wasn't your father.
In this video,
Dutch
I try to
comfort.
find out where these stereotypes come from. I share some of the best and worst sayings about the Dutch.
Yeah. At the Dutch oven. I just said that.
Worst sayings about the Dutch.
Yep.
And I found a link to a 350-year-old rivalry. So, I'm from the Netherlands. Goedemiddag.
I'm 1.93. Not that it's relevant, but hey, he's 1.83 or whatever, so I figured I might as well throw mine in there too.
And I've always wondered why there's so many negative sayings about the Dutch. You might have heard about going Dutch, splitting the bill.
I'm not going Dutch, so.
Rats. Which, when it comes to dating, for a long time meant it wasn't really good. Some are less known, like a Dutch concert, which is just loud noise, to talk Dutch, talking gibberish, and taking Dutch leave, which I learned in researching is to desert from the army. There's also many...
I've not heard of any of those, but not gonna lie, is it just me or does this guy's kitchen look very narrow? I mean, look at that fridge. That fridge is just... It looks like somebody took his kitchen and squished it sideways, or like maybe stretched it taller. I don't know.
Expressions about Dutch and intimacy. For instance, a Dutch widow is a sex worker. There's talk about the Dutch being cheap. Dutch gold is just a cheap alloy. Or about the Dutch being rude. A Dutch uncle. And there's so many more.
Never heard these.
All in all, most of these sayings don't paint the Dutch in the best light. But maybe, just maybe, I noticed these things because, well, I am Dutch. So I did some real research and I asked ChatGPT.
So I just asked ChatGPT to come up with some sayings about Dutch people, and it doesn't want to give it to me because it doesn't want to perpetuate negative stereotypes.
Hold on. So give me a list of 30 sayings about Dutch people and their meaning. So that's just a pretty simple, straightforward question. But it says, I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, it'd be inappropriate to provide a list of stereotypical sayings about any particular group of people, including Dutch people. Such sayings can be harmful, discriminatory, and perpetuate negative stereotypes. And then it says, instead, it'd be more beneficial to focus on positive and respectful aspects of Dutch culture, such as their achievements in science, arts, and sustainable living. But he didn't ask negative. He didn't ask stereotypes. He just says, list of 30 sayings about the Dutch and their meaning. ChatGPT could have equally just gave him positive results instead of just assuming it was negative. So what is going on here? Is there something to this? Very interesting.
Ask ChatGPT to come up with some sayings about Dutch people, and it doesn't want to give it to me because it doesn't want to perpetuate negative stereotypes. Mind you, I just said 30 sayings about Dutch people. After bending my robot servant to my will, it comes up with this list. Okay, so let's look at what ChatGPT didn't want to share. Some of these are just factual. You have things like Dutch tilts, this is a camera angle, a Dutch door. You have a Dutchman, thanks for the insights, chat. There's a Dutch oven, you can use it for cooking stuff.
You can.
And then you have the intimacy again.
By the way, don't use an ad blocker when you're watching my videos.
So we have the Dutch cap, which is contraceptive. And
I try not to use it, but when I'm doing my reactions, it's better to just not have you guys sitting there watching the whole ads and stuff the whole time. But yeah, watch those ads. It's there to support the creator.
the Dutch rudder, which, well, I don't want to get demonetized, so you can search for that yourself.
I might have
But
to.
then I thought other countries also have dubious stereotypes, right? So what does it have to say?
Okay, so we're just gonna have to check Dutch rudder. What is that? Oh, maybe we're not gonna do that. I'll let you guys pause it and read it if you wanted to, if you're curious. But I can't read that. I'd probably get demonetized too. I read about half a second of it and I'm like, okay, yeah, nope, not for the channel. You guys go check it out yourself though, if that's what you're into.
But France and Germany. Suddenly it's not so afraid of perpetuating negative stereotypes. You have the French, which has food, French toast, French cuisine, French press for the coffee, French kiss, and the Germans are efficiency, engineering, shepherd, beer, and language.
So why is ChatGPT okay with talking about the French and the Germans, but when it came to the Dutch, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Can't do that, guys. No negative stereotypes. What is going on here?
Pretty uncontroversial. So, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Just to be sure it wasn't all in my head, I asked you what you associate with the term Dutch, and 3,000 of you responded. Most of you had heard about going Dutch as splitting money, but in the comments you mentioned a bunch of different stuff. From Dutch in video games,
I had a goddamn plan!
To chess
I didn't know that Red Dead Redemption was Dutch.
openings, to the Dutch wife, which I had to Google. So it's apparently a long pillow you can hold while sleeping, but in East Asia it's a bamboo tube and it sort of
So a Dutch wife. So it's just a companionship pillow, essentially.
keeps you cool at night, but it also means sex doll in some languages. And it comes from Dutch meaning inferior substitute. Come on, Wikipedia, why do you have to do me like that? So where does this all come from?
Yeah, what is
Does
this
the
deal?
English-speaking
What is?
world actually dislike the Dutch? The
Sorry, guys, I can't talk right today, evidently. But what is going on here?
thing is, I never thought non-Dutch people saw us as this nasty nation. I know some people think we're rude because we can be quite direct, but most people I meet are impressed with our production of botanical herbs, our ideas about temporary companionship, and our penalty shootout skills.
Defender who blasts it wide!
Then we have, of course, art, cheese, water management, and cycling infrastructure,
Yeah.
which is apparently so good that you can build a successful YouTube channel on it. I also found these opinion polls. They show how American and British people think about the Dutch. Out of 195 countries, the Dutch rank 10th for the Americans and 6th for the British. I'm gonna take that as a win. On a side note, do you see how the British
For such a small country, not bad. Not bad at all.
put themselves at 7, but the Americans, yeah, they're number 1. Apart from my own experience and popularity polls, I asked some people on the street.
They usually have nice teeth and they're usually nice.
My first association is a very positive one. I enjoy Dutch people.
I do not know any Dutch people, but I have a good impression.
When I say
Did she just say she don't know Dutch people? They are in the Netherlands. The lady is Dutch, right? Or no? Is he somewhere else? Maybe I missed something here.
Dutch, what is the first thing you think about?
Max Verstappen.
It's tulips and maybe bicycles.
I like that they're colorful, open-minded, friendly, communicative.
So me, a Dutch person, asking people what they think about the Netherlands is of course solid research. There's actually one problem. No one knows any Dutch phrases. No one knows anything connected to Dutch, which maybe kills the video. So if people don't have a negative view of the Dutch now, Where do these words come from? Let's look at the actual influence that Dutch has on English and how these influences came to be. We can first look on the influence of Dutch words on the language. How many words in English have a Dutch origin? As a grand total, it's not that much. This is a chart of the origin of the 10,000 most used words. And Dutch, well, it's not even on this chart. It pulls at about 1%.
It's because Dutch and modern English both split off of Old English. So it's kind of like on a tangent. That makes sense.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a lot.
And for your percent,
He gets a place in the conversation.
But the American linguist Charlton Laird has noted that more words per capita have been bored into American English from the early Hollanders than from any other sort of non-English speakers. There are many varieties of English around the world, but you basically have two main ones. On the one you have British English, and then you have American English. This developed from British English after the USA gained independence. And when it comes to the influence of Dutch on American English, I found a perfect source. Yankees, Cookies and Dollars is a book by Nicolien van der Sijs.
Yankees, cookies, and dollars, huh?
And in her book, van der Sijs explains how stuff like, well, Yankees, cookies and dollars have Dutch roots. But also waffles, coleslaw and brandy. She sees three main moments that Dutch influenced American English. Dutch and dollars have...
Yeah, actually, I do vaguely remember hearing something about the Yankees. Oh no, that's not... Yeah, there was something, I can't remember. There was something that had something to do with the Yankees from the Netherlands in another video. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. It's kind of like stuck there, but... I guess if I would have realized that I was having a brain block, I wouldn't have paused the video. Sorry, guys.
Dutch roots, but also waffles, coleslaw and brandy. She sees three main moments that Dutch influenced American English. Dutch have been trading with the English for quite some time. Over time you get loanwords that enter each other's languages. The second moment is with the Dutch colony in what is now New York. And finally, in the 1800s, there's a wave of Dutch immigration to America. According to a US census of 2000, there were some 4.5 million people in the States that claimed some Dutch ancestry. So first there...
I actually have a lot of Dutch ancestry from the 1600s. I was working on my family tree and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting to know.
There's trade, and through these interactions, words like clock, lock and wagon made it into English. A second wave is due to the settlement of New Amsterdam. In the early 1600s, the Dutch were in the first stages of building a huge colonial empire. The explorer
and then it went on and became New York City, way down the road.
Henry Hudson was sent to search for a route to Asia when he sailed up this river. This led to a colony by the Dutch, New Amsterdam. The Dutch presence can be found in New York and its surroundings to this day, in streets, in boroughs, and in cities around the area. When George Washington became the first president of the United States, he wanted to be addressed as His Mightiness, from the Dutch Hoogmogendheid. But Congress didn't think that was the best idea. So they settled on a more boring Mr. President. Imagine if the president is just called His Mightiness everywhere. And in addition to...
Could you imagine people calling Trump His Mightiness? He would have had like a bigger ego than he already did. His Mightiness.
These waves, you also have some modern sayings about Dutchness. Expressions like the Dutch disease. Okay, that seems harmless enough, right?
The Dutch disease? What in the world is that? I've not heard that at all, actually.
No reason to be mean about the Dutch, but it's the way how the Dutch lose this colony that gives us the first lead. Because New Amsterdam gets occupied by the English during a war. This is one of 3 wars in the 1600s where the English and the Dutch are fighting. They are battling it out on seas all over the world to see who was the biggest cheese. They fought 3 wars in just 22 years. As a serious historian, I will of course give you an honest and totally impartial view of what the biggest and most important victory of this time was. And when you look at all the facts, it has to be a Dutch attack on the Medway. The Dutch sink 13 ships and capture the HMS Royal Charles, the flagship of the English. The ship was named after their king, so the humiliation was big. This has been called the most serious defeat England has ever had in its home waters. And the best thing is, you can still visit the stern of that ship in the Dutch Rijksmuseum. You can understand the English are not happy with this. And it's this time that you get some bad sayings about the Dutch. If you ask the English of these days, the Dutch, they drink a lot, they are loud, they try to trick you in trade, and they really, really like to go to sex workers.
So that makes sense. If you have a lot of English people that's like not liking the Dutch, and then, you know, of course, American English and this and that has obviously language roots with British English, you know, so fast forward to nowadays, I could see it.
So I guess that's it. Mystery solved. A couple of wars 350 years ago influenced the language. And because the 1600s and 1700s had the biggest influence on modern English, these views just stuck around. So I guess thank you for watching the video.
But it's not.
Wait, sorry, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
I found something. You can actually find new words and expressions about the Dutch and American English from a time long after these sea battles. This happens when Americans gain their independence. They start developing their own version of English, and they add new Dutch words that were not present yet in British English. And if you look at this chart, where British English has the 9th place in words taken over from the Dutch at 1692, American English is a lot lower at 36, but still has 258 words unique to their own language. What's interesting to me is that the thing with the Dutch and their money, them being cheap and stuff, this is actually from the late 1800s in America. So expressions like a Dutch party, Dutch supper, Dutch treat, or to go Dutch,
Okay, I don't know what any of those mean except for the Go Dutch, obviously, because they discussed it a little bit ago. But yeah,
they all have the same meaning. But it's not just the cheap part. Talking rude, a Dutch uncle, the Dutch leave, talking gibberish, double Dutch. All these things are from this time, not from the English. The reason for this could be that third wave of influence into American, with migration in the 1800s of more poor Dutch people coming to America, and they settled in these areas. They're definitely the reason why we have the cringy saying, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. And it could just be that these immigrants were poor, and so they influenced this idea of the Dutch being cheap. In regional American, you even get stuff like a Dutch bath, which doesn't need a lot of water, a Dutch bed, which is unmade, or just Dutch, which means ejaculating between breasts. I guess we still haven't lost the intimacy part. The second.
So I have a Dutch bed over here, if it means it's not made, because my bed is like right over there, and it's definitely not made.
The problem is this book I found, Holland Mania. And at the same time that the new negative sayings about the Dutch come into use, it's the Dutch role in American history that gets re-evaluated. Books like John Mothrop's The Dutch Republic, he paints the Dutch as a freedom-loving people, a nation that wins their liberty by fighting against a foreign king. And that fits kind of well with how Americans saw themselves. Other writers find quotes about the Dutch Republic from founding fathers, like this one from Benjamin Franklin.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of our stuff that's influenced by the Dutch. Like, isn't our Constitution or something copied from the Dutch? Maybe our Declaration of Independence or something like that. There was a lot of founding fathers that were Dutch. A lot of Dutch influence for sure.
On love of liberty and bravery in the defense of it, she has been our great example. It was discovered that the Declaration of Independence was influenced by a Dutch document from 1581 denouncing the Spanish king. Collectors started purchasing works by Dutch masters, and painters went to paint typical Dutch landscapes and scenes. So why do Americans develop negative sayings about the Dutch at the same time that they are idolizing these peoples? To get an answer, I emailed the writers of both books, and I got a response. Nicolien van der Zij says that ideas of 17th century English people could still have been around in the 19th century. Dating is notoriously hard. Also, these are general developments. There are always exceptions. An answer full of nuance. Isn't it great to be an academic? Stott says the late 19th century Americans may not have thought of it as an insult to the Dutch. Just an...
I mean, Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people say that later on turns into an insult. So like I could see that, but at the same time, like how could you say that it's not an insult when it's like a lot of negative stuff that you know what I mean, like stereotypical kind of stuff.
An unexamined way of expressing an idea. And she continues, I'm aware that this is not a very satisfactory explanation, but humans are nothing if not contradictory. It is a complex
Yeah.
phenomenon. Sometimes history is just a mystery.
Wait, I just got another email
Can
from
be.
Nicolien van der Sijs. And she says I should look into the dictionary by Gaston Dollen. And he explains how the term Dutch might not always refer to people from the Netherlands at all.
Oh, because of the fact that Deutsch is the name of the German language and people got it confused. Kind of like with the Pennsylvania Dutch, a lot of people think that like the Amish around here, Pennsylvania Dutch or whatever, are from the Netherlands, but they're not. They're more German descent. I wonder if that's where he's getting at.
He explains that the term Dutch was originally used for a big language group that even included the English.
Oh, yeah.
It then evolved into meaning just Dutch and German peoples. But when the Dutch gained independence from Spain, the English just settled on calling those people Dutch, and they then come up with German for Germans. This leads to some confusion in the New World. Originally it was fine. The majority of non-English immigrants came from the Netherlands. But when a group of German immigrants settle in America and call themselves Pennsylvanisch Deutsch, this then gets sloppily translated to Pennsylvania Dutch,
Yep, exactly what I was saying a minute ago.
which doesn't have anything to do with people from the Netherlands at all. So in the end, it's actually the Germans that are the sex-obsessed cheapskates? Well, I guess you learn something every day. This might not be the only thing you didn't know about the Germans. How about the fact that they had a colonial past, complete with the white colonial hats? Well, if you didn't know that, you're not alone. The Germans actually also don't really know about this overseas history. What do you know about the colonial history of Germany?
Gar nichts. Too little, to be honest.
Relativ wenig tatsächlich.
It's just in the last few years that this colonial history has gotten more attention, with an extra focus on the killing of Herero and Nama tribes in Namibia. This atrocity has been called the first genocide of the 20th century. I went to Berlin to cover this story. I asked myself why no one ever talks about this colonial past, and I wondered how Germany is dealing with it. My next video is entirely on that topic, and even though it won't hit YouTube in some time, you can actually watch it right now, because it is on Nebula. This is
Alright
the
guys,
creator
well
on
go
streaming
check
service
out
where I'm posting
Nebula. That's where you'll be able to find his video. The one we're reacting to here is 4 months ago, so he may have actually released it now. I don't know. Yeah, so evidently the Germans, I'm looking at the wrong camera. You guys are there. Evidently the Germans are partly responsible for the Dutch negative stereotypes, or at least the sayings that were introduced after the 1800s, I think, right? When the Pennsylvania Dutch or whatever, Pennsylvania Deutsch, came across from Germany. So anyways, you guys have a super fun, awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care.